Well, you are back with Mystery and Murder, the podcast where we unravel notorious true crime cases and explore the minds behind them. When I say explore the minds behind them, I mean we like to go inside the mind of the subject and give you some insight into why they do what they do, what makes them tick. And on today's episode, we'll reach the shocking conclusion of the Love Has Won cult story and the demise of Amy Carlson, the cult's charismatic, troubled, and fascinating leader. Now, I've said all along, I definitely consider this a cult. They deny that. They say, no, we're not a cult. We're just a religious organization. We're just people that come together and share a belief about love and life and all things good. So I'm just giving you my opinion. You can make up your own mind when you hear the things that are indisputable. I have to warn you, what you're going to hear today is disturbing, and it's unlike any other case that I've ever been part of. When I interviewed Amy on my show back in 2020, I knew she was in severe trouble, but I never could have imagined the grisly fate that lay in store for her. When we left off in our last episode, I had spoken with Amy and several of her devoted followers on my show. It was clear that these spokeswomen were completely immersed in Amy's bizarre and convoluted doctrine, unwavering in their belief. And that was really surprising to me because it's actually hard to figure out what it was that her belief system included, which means it's hard to commit to something that you can't really understand, you can't really describe. But these young women that were there as representatives were robotic. I mean, absolutely robotic in their responses and their answers and their devotion to this woman. You always wonder when you talk to people in what I believe are cults, where their critical thinking went. Of course, people that would be what I would consider, in my opinion, to be well-adjusted in life, connected to other people, having a sense of belongingness, aren't vulnerable to getting sucked into this kind of thing. So I don't consider these to be well-adjusted people to begin with, but you always wonder, whatever the cult is, how they have no critical thinking at all. Think back to the Branch Davidians in Waco, for example, and David Koresh, who had convinced everyone that he actually was the Son of God, but yet he wore glasses. I mean, isn't that inconsistent? You're supposed to be a deity, but yet you have these imperfections where you have to go down to the mall and get some glasses. It just seems to me that somebody would say, yeah, that just doesn't ring true. And I think people do say that at some point. We're going to talk about why they don't act on that, or how it's difficult to act on that later. Then you have the Hail Bob Comet group. They all get new tennis shoes. And you think, okay, I'm good with that. But then they say, okay, then we're all going to kill ourselves. You would think one person would go, yeah, I'm okay with the new tennis shoes, but this killing ourselves? Wouldn't you think one person out of the group would say, really? Is that really necessary? Are we accomplishing something by doing that? But the critical thinking is not there. And in this case, we have a leader in Amy Carlson, Mother God, who is clearly an alcoholic. She's abusive to other people. She goes on these rants, yelling, screaming, cussing, slamming things around. You go, that just doesn't seem very godlike. That seems to me to be very flawed in character and not very transcendent, very petty and self-serving and demeaning of other people. You would think people would say that's inconsistent, but I tried to make those points, and despite my efforts and the desperate pleas from Amy's own family to get her to see reason, All of our words fell on deaf ears. And that's the danger of these things. By the time I interviewed her, Love Has Won had become highly nomadic. They're drifting from Crestone, Colorado, through Oregon, Florida, California. And meanwhile, Amy's health is deteriorating at an alarming rate, again inconsistent with being this omnipotent individual. I had already been concerned about her well-being during our Skype interview, but later footage showed her condition was rapidly worsening, her body wasting away before our eyes. She appeared frail, weak, barely able to move, and it was really haunting to watch. Amy led her followers to Hawaii, hoping the island's energy would restore her health and give the group a fresh start. However, while her followers insisted the trip was meant to ease Mother's pain, it quickly spiraled into chaos. Amy declared herself the goddess Pele, a deeply sacred figure in Hawaiian culture. They revere her as the goddess of fire, lightning, wind, and dance. They also considered Pele to be the very force that created the Hawaiian Islands. So when Amy and her devoted followers arrived on the Hawaiian island claiming she was this divine figure, the local community erupted in outrage. This was something they took very seriously, and then here comes this woman from nowhere that claims to be this figure. And what followed was a days-long protest which enraged the Kauai natives, condemning what they saw as a cult attempting to hijack their heritage, which they took very seriously. Tensions escalated quickly. Furious residents gathered outside the rental home where Love Has Won was staying, shouting in protest and issuing threats. The situation turned volatile. Rocks and eggs were hurled at the house. Windows were shattered. The group's vehicle was vandalized. The uproar became so intense that the mayor of Kauai had to personally intervene, arranging for law enforcement to escort Amy and her followers off the island. They had to leave. Now, while violence is never the answer, it's easy to understand the anger. This was yet another instance of Amy proclaiming herself to be an untouchable divine being, expecting no resistance. And that's part of the narcissism. She sees it only from her point of view. She just decides, I'm going to claim this, and that's how it's going to be. Only from her point of view. She never goes around, reads the room, reads the community, reads the island, and says, you know what? There are people deeply committed to this, and they're going to object to me coming in and hijacking their heritage, hijacking their history, their belief system. But this time she met a community that just wasn't willing to let her go unchallenged. So while Love Has Won members painted themselves as victims, one Hawaiian local just put it bluntly, how are you supposed to greet someone with aloha when they give a big F you to your entire culture? Ain't gonna happen. We're just not gonna do that. Coming up, Amy told me she had what she called stage 5 cancer, which of course is not a real thing. Hey, Dr. Phil here. Your savings are at risk. With the economy on shaky ground, the dollar losing value, and a $2 trillion deficit, things could spiral. Don't wait for the worst. Take control of your financial future now. I trust Preserve Gold to safeguard my accounts, and I urge you to do the same. They're the only precious metals company I recommend. What are you going to do to protect what's yours? Claim your special offer and learn how to reinforce your financial future. Visit drphilgold.com to get your free precious metals guide from Preserve Gold. With gold prices recently breaking records and analysts predicting this trend to continue through 2025, you cannot afford to wait. As a bonus, you can get up to $15,000 with a qualified purchase from Preserve Gold. So don't wait. Visit drphilgold.com today. This episode is brought to you by Masa chips. For decades, chips were fried in tallow until big corporations switched to cheap seed oils. Now, seed oils make up 20% of the average American's daily calories, linked to inflammation and metabolic issues. Masa is bringing back the good stuff with 3 simple ingredients: organic nixtamalized corn, sea salt, and 100% grass-fed beef tallow. No seed oils, no junk, just a crunchy, sturdy chip that won't break in your guac. Masa Chips is beloved by tens of thousands of customers and has been endorsed by industry-leading health and nutrition experts like Ben Greenfield and Gary Brecka. Ready to give Masa a try? Go to masachips.com/merit and use code MERIT for 25% off your first order. That's masachips.com/merit and code MERIT for 25% off your first order. Now, when I spoke to Amy, she told me she had what she called stage 5 cancer, which of course is not a real thing. We all know that in medical parlance, cancer has 4 stages. But of course, because she's narcissistic and special, she has to have her own stage. But what was really going on with Amy's poor physical health seemed to me to be a reflection of her mental health. Amy was allegedly suffering from anorexia and alcohol abuse. Let's just take a minute here and talk about this because it's not exotic at all, but it is quite serious. You look at the effects of simultaneous eating disorders and alcohol abuse, these do not mix well. They often occur together, but they don't mix well. We know that when you have severe malnourishment, it can cause changes in your entire constitution, your whole body chemistry. And it can certainly affect your brain chemistry, which can, of course, negatively impact your mental health, your ability to think, your ability to reason, and even skew your sense of reality. In fact, we know that anorexia can cause a whole host of issues when it comes to a person's physical, mental, and behavioral traits. Each of these symptoms can snowball. First, dehydration. And when you get dehydrated, your body just doesn't function well. That has a snowball effect: dizziness, fainting, fatigue, low blood pressure, low body temperature, osteoporosis, electrolyte imbalance. You feel cold. There are all kinds of gastrointestinal issues as well. Your kidneys can start to shut down. You have brittle nails, you bruise easily. And of course, on the mental health side, there's often depression, and there's a psychomotor retardation where activity goes way down. You get dry hair, dry skin, headaches, sensitivity to cold, a slow heart rate. Your respiration can go down. There's no doubt these ailments are further complicated by her lack of critical thinking skills and her belief that she can just transcend everything. And when she brings to the table problems with mental illness, which we'll talk about in a minute, it just exacerbates those things. Now, let's put on top of that the effects of alcoholism. You remember we talked about the cult escapee Ashley, who also sat and interviewed with me, and she asserted that she used to witness Amy drink beer all day long. Others allege that Amy considered alcohol to be medicinal. Well, of course, if you're a narcissist, you're special, and so you're self-medicating. It's good for you. We know that she was abusing alcohol and that can cause severe short and long-term effects on the central nervous system. I mean, listen, when you're drunk, you're dumb, you're slow, you're clumsy, your reasoning is impaired. That's why you can't drive legally at 0.08. And if you're drinking all day and you're emaciated, you don't have a lot of tissue to absorb that, then that's going to be exacerbated. And we saw firsthand Amy's wildly inappropriate outburst. It can have effects on your cardiovascular system. And chronic alcohol consumption can increase your heart rate, cause high blood pressure. It can alter your endocrine system, create all sorts of mood changes, and eventually it can slow your breathing to the point that it suppresses it where you just stop breathing. Now, any one of these things, eating disorder, alcohol abuse, can be a problem. But when you stack them, they're not additive, they're multiplicative. It's like 2 plus 3 is 5. 2 times 3 is 6. So you get more when you multiply these things together. And there was a lot of comorbidity going on here, in my opinion. I think she had delusional disorders. I'm not diagnosing her. I didn't do the things necessary to render a diagnosis. But we saw signs of delusions, psychopathy. She clearly didn't take others' feelings into account. She showed signs of borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, all of these things which distort her connection to reality, connection to the real world. When you've got somebody that's narcissistic, meaning they feel special, they feel entitled, they think rules don't apply to them, they don't have empathy, they don't consider other people's thoughts or feelings, they see things only from their point of view, they're delusional in that they convince themselves that certain beliefs are true when there's no empirical evidence to support that. Now you distort their thinking with alcohol, and their health is bad because they're malnourished and dehydrated. All of that mixed together, you have one unhealthy individual. And now you've got a bunch of sycophants around them, treating them like they're some kind of god. What could possibly go wrong in this situation? How about everything? And that's about to happen. Coming up, her face is the color of a blueberry. We are in the midst of a brutal allergy season. According to experts, it is longer and more severe than in years past. For many of us, that means sleepless nights, tossing, turning, and sneezing, and the dreaded postnasal drip. That's not even half of it. But there is a solution. Sambrosa night syrups. It's effective. Try it and get your best night's sleep. If you watched my town hall with RFK Jr., then you know Sambrosa is sponsoring Merit TV's Make America Healthy Again campaign. That's because Sambrosa contains no dyes, synthetic colors, or artificial flavors, and no high fructose corn syrup. Just a base of nutrient-rich honey and 7 organic herbs and a small dose of antihistamine that will have you sleeping like a baby. Go to Sambrosa.com and use code MERIT for 25% off your first order. Wake up rested and invigorated. Again, go to Sambrosa.com and use code MERIT for 25% off your first order. With so much going on in your life, it can be easy to neglect your diet. Balance of Nature fruits and veggies supplements have 31 ingredients made from fruits and vegetables. They're a fast and simple way to get a wide and colorful variety that fits right into your busy schedule. Just 3 fruits and 3 veggies supplements daily with some water, that's it. Whether you're off to spend time with your grandchildren or on your favorite hike, you can rely on these convenient supplements to be there every step of the way. Start your journey with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first preferred set as a new preferred customer with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code Dr. Phil. That's DRPHIL. So this woman is barely eating. She's drinking like a fish. It's already a recipe for a medical disaster. And on top of this, she's been ingesting large amounts of something called colloidal silver. Now, colloidal silver consists of tiny silver particles in a liquid. We're talking about actual silver here. It's a heavy metal. It's the kind found in jewelry and dental fillings. It's been controversially promoted online as having significant health benefits. Love Is One used to make claims about it curing COVID. Now, Amy was ingesting this supplement daily, believing that it would cure her of her perceived ailments, I assume stage 5 cancer. However, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration states that in fact, colloidal silver is not safe or effective for treating diseases or conditions. In fact, consuming large quantities can be dangerous, leading to side effects like poor absorption of other drugs like antibiotics, possible kidney, liver, or nervous system problems. In rare cases, too many doses of colloidal silver can cause long-lasting severe health problems such as kidney damage, seizures, organ failure. Also, notably, consuming colloidal silver over a lengthy period of time can cause the skin to appear a distinct and alarming bluish gray color, the results of which are impossible to reverse. Now, when I'm looking at Amy, she's blue. She's actually turned blue. So I don't know how much of this she was taking, but she's blue. By the spring of 2021, about a year after our interview, she was visibly at death's door. Yet all of her followers that are seen on camera when she's posting these YouTube things, they're still looking at her like she is God herself. Her body was failing and she was barely functioning. To any outside observer, it was painfully clear this woman needed urgent medical intervention. She required an ambulance, an ICU, something. She was in appalling condition, clinging to life, and nobody around her was willing to step up and say, "Hey, lady, you're killing yourself. You're dying." Did her devoted followers, the ones who worshiped her as Mother God, step in to save her? Not a chance. They did nothing of the sort. Now, while this may seem unimaginable, even criminally negligent to you or me, Amy's followers were so deeply indoctrinated. They truly believed her frail body was merely preparing for ascension. She had convinced them so completely of her divinity that they saw her as immune to death in the way you or I perceive it. In their minds, when she would eventually transition, aka die, galactic beings would come to claim her body. So put yourself in their position. They don't think she's dying. They haven't done enough research to know she's taken so much of this colloidal silver that she's turned blue. They don't recognize that she is anorexic, alcoholic, organs shutting down and dying. They think, no, she's transitioning and that these celestial beings are going to come and take her away. How dysfunctional have they gotten? At this point, they're blindly following the nonsense that Amy herself had hammered into their heads. My good friend Rick Allen Ross, he talked about this. Listen to what he had to say.
I think that Amy is reinforced by all these people around her, and it sounds to me like she can do nothing wrong. That no matter what Amy does or says, it's reinforced by the group as right, as godlike, and in fact, to disagree with Amy is to disagree with God. And so Amy herself rationalizes everything. The group reinforces that.
This guy does nothing but study these cults. So to their way of thinking, they have to listen to Mother God. They have to listen to her. She's the one still in control. Even when she's so ill, she can barely function. Others still think that to question her would be to defy her. All it would have taken was one person, just one, seeing the light and saying, we're not doing this anymore. We're taking you to a doctor. To have literally given her a chance to save her life. Maybe too far gone, who knows, but at least she would have had a chance. They could have cleaned her blood out, putting her on dialysis, something. But by this point, these people surrounding her, they're not mentally well enough or strong enough to do the right thing. That's really sick. They contributed through negligence to her death. Throughout history, cults have idealized and romanticized death and the promise of afterlife in different ways. And it almost seemed like there was an excitement and a jubilation about what was going to happen to Amy after her demise. This isn't new. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. I think in the very first episode we sat down and talked about this. The People's Church, led by Jim Jones, it was in the late 70s where he led a mass revolutionary group to carry out suicide via this powdered drink. And you've all heard the saying a million times, well, they drank the Kool-Aid. That's where that comes from. That's where that saying comes from. They took this powdered poison, mixed it up, put it in paper cups, and passed it out right when the United States government was going to intervene and rescue these people that were so spellbound, so brainwashed. In fact, they sent a group down there to investigate, and when they returned to the airport, they were slaughtered. Rather than let them leave, they were gunned down at the airport, machine guns, shot and killed, because they knew that we've been found out, we've been discovered. And while that was going on back at the camp, they were drinking the Kool-Aid. Meanwhile, the members of Love Is One have convinced themselves that Amy's dying body is going to be picked up and carried off into the cosmos by aliens. This all ties together with the concept of magical thinking. Now, psychoanalyst Leonard Shingold referred to cult practices as a form of soul murder. It's the idea that being a part of these groups robs individuals of their humanity, their autonomy, and frankly, their common sense. And there it is, common sense. Because you or I are sitting here still independent, still outside of this, with the benefit of common sense, thinking, how in the world could somebody be this dumb? Common sense enables them to cast aside the idea that these fantastical things are going to happen. But when you lose that, you don't have the ability to cast aside the idea of right or wrong in order to do what anybody with even a working level of intellect would do. You've lost your ability to evaluate. You've lost your ability to think critically. You've lost your ability to say, wait a minute, does this pass the smell test? Does this even make common sense? Does this have any tie to reality? But they're sitting there watching her die and believing all these things are going to happen. No evidence, just they were told that's going to happen. And why did they believe it? Because we tend to believe people we like. I'm not saying you're going to wind up in a cult, but this is very important. We tend to believe people we like. And who do we like? We like people who like us. Now take that one step further. We believe people who like us. Now let me walk you back through that again. I know this seems simple, but it is so profound. You need to really embrace this and pass it on to your children or grandchildren. We tend to believe people we like. Who do we like? We like people who like us. Therefore, We believe people who like us. And what does a cult do? It takes people who are disenfranchised. It takes people who are lost, who are marginalized, who don't fit in, who don't belong, who aren't accepted, and love bombs them. It engulfs them. It hugs them. It pulls them in. We love you. You are so special. We have been waiting for you to arrive. This is your home. We need you. We want you. We accept you. We value you. You are so special. It doesn't matter if you're tall or short, fat, skinny, smart, dumb, smell, don't smell. Doesn't matter. We love you. We want you. We need you. We care about you. You belong here. This is your home. You've finally found your way. All you have to do is believe what we tell you. That's the price of admission. Agree with us, believe what we believe, and we will love you forever. Who do we believe? We believe people that like us. And a cult likes you a lot. All of a sudden, you belong. You're part of something bigger than yourself. You went from being cast out, ostracized, marginalized, alone, and forlorn, to being right in the middle of something that is important, in fact, cosmic, godly, galactical. And so you believe them, desperately believe them. It's a them or us mentality. And you are part of us now. It's them that rejected you, them that hurt you, them that cast you aside. Do you want to go back out there? They treated you badly. We love you. It's alleged that Amy was last seen alive on or around April 10th, 2021. In the weeks leading up to her death, others seeing her frail and horrific state online requested wellness checks. But anytime the police went to the Love is One dwelling, they were informed by members that Amy was not at home. Sorry, can't see her, she isn't here. During these critical last days, 2 members later alleged that Amy finally did ask to be taken to a hospital, but that they did not honor that request. I have in front of me one of the last known photographs of Amy. And I have to say, it's tough to look at this. As a sane and rational person, and imagine a world in which anyone with working vision would think this woman is okay. Her face is the color of a blueberry, and she's painfully thin. The wispy strands of her hair she has left or dyed the colors of My Little Pony. I'll tell you one thing at this point, she really did appear like she was from another galaxy. Oh, my. It's a haunting image, knowing what happened next. According to the timeline, on April 16, 2021, Amy passed. But remember, the Love Has Won crew firmly believed that upon her passing, Amy's body would be retrieved by extraterrestrial beings and a starship filled with celebrities. So when her body remained dead and on Earth, her loyal followers resorted to a bizarre and frankly stomach-churning plan B. For days after her death, cult members claimed that Amy's body was still warm and said that they still tried to give Amy water and, quote unquote, take care of her vessel. Now, how delusional are these people? They say for days after she was still warm. No, she wasn't. Upon checking out of their Oregon hotel, they went camping with Amy's corpse. Love Has Won member Jason, also known as Father God, even slept beside Amy's body in the tent. Take a pause and think about this. By now, she's been dead, what, 4, 5, 6 days? I don't know. So you take her out of the hotel some kind of way, and you go out in the woods and you get in a tent and you sleep with her. Next, they ended up taking Amy's corpse with them on a bit of a cross-country road trip from Oregon, where she died, back to Colorado. Now, can you imagine piling into a car with a deceased, decaying body? Eventually, they reached their destination with Amy in tow. Group business manager Miguel Lamboy's home. You remember, he's the one that turned this into a business. Finally, on April 29th, it's now like 14 days, Miguel finally alerted police that there was a dead person on his premises. Now, there's a video of police body cam footage showing the moment they enter the back room of his house, and let me tell you, it's a horrific and surreal sight. The police can't seem to believe what's in front of them, and rightfully so. They're at times letting out these awkward laughs, but it's clear to them that these are anxious laughs due to a state of shock because of what they're witnessing. The room is strung with Christmas lights. They're wrapped up on some kind of makeshift shrine. There lies a mummified blue body of Amy Carlson. Now, just a warning, this gets even more disturbing. The police saw that Amy's mummified corpse was wrapped in a sleeping bag. Her eyelids were painted with glitter, but her eyeballs had apparently disintegrated. It was a ghoulish, tragic scene. Initially, 7 Love Has Won members were arrested following the discovery of Amy's body. 3 were charged with abuse of a corpse. 4 were charged with tampering with a deceased human body, and finally all 7 were also charged with misdemeanor child abuse because 2 minors were in the house when deputies arrived, one of whom was Miguel's son. This is a whole nother issue. You got all of this, let's just say, dysfunctional behavior going on, and you've got children around all of this. Now, if you want to get stupid and go do self-destructive things as an adult, I suppose that's your right. But to subject children to this, that's not your right. Soon, though, all these charges were dropped because, in the words of the local district attorney, the allegations could not be met beyond a reasonable doubt. The coroner's report stated that Amy had died from global decline in the setting of alcohol abuse, anorexia, and chronic colloidal silver ingestion. So there you have it. Amy dies, and her loyal subjects are left without their mother god they had so fiercely believed in. She wasn't a god, she was human, made of flesh and bone, and no amount of silver or so-called alien communication could save her. Now, for those who manage to extricate themselves from these toxic groups, those that find the ego strength or have the family that is tenacious enough to get their hands on them and get them away from this kind of thing, the road to recovery, I'm telling you, it's long and arduous, and it requires patience. After leaving a cult, or if one experienced highly controlled organizational trauma, they oftentimes go into a grief state. There's a tremendous sense of loss, and they're often left feeling isolated, as though somebody has died. I mean, they're depressed, anxious, ashamed. They feel a great sense of loss and no direction. Some often fear that they're going to be punished for being disloyal, for leaving, for disobeying cult rules. They may feel really confused about, well, what's right and what's wrong. And that if they find a place in the world again, that it's disloyal. They may even miss the people and place that they extricated themselves from, because that became a comfort zone. It was so structured, they didn't have decisions to make. They didn't have choices to make. Everything was done for them. When we talk about prisoners, we call it institutionalization. Prisoners that have been in prison for a long time have a difficult adjustment to make when they get out. When you've lived your life in an 8x10 cell, then you got up every day at a set time, you eat your meals at a set time, you're regimented in where you can go, what you can do, everything is controlled for you. And you get out, you can be overwhelmed because you've become institutionalized. No choices, no decisions, everything regimented. Your world gets very small. And even though you don't like it at one level, you get comfortable with it. Think about it this way: no matter how toxic a cult may be, it does provide structure. You do belong to something. It's a way of life. You know the hierarchy, you know what's expected of you, and then all of a sudden, there is no structure. You wake up, what are you supposed to do with yourself? But there are therapeutic methods that can really help, including cognitive behavior therapy, which helps people evaluate their thinking, listen to their internal dialogue, generate rational thoughts. Dialectical behavior therapy, mindfulness therapy, as well as a treatment known as EMDR, an integrative psychotherapy approach that's been extensively researched and proven effective for the treatment of trauma and other mental health problems. All of these are designed to kind of hit the reset button. So, when this happens and Mother God, Amy Carlson, dies and her rotting corpse is finally seized by the government, all of these beliefs are dashed, right? So this is the end of Love Has Won. Well, not quite. After Amy's death, the group splintered off, with Jason, aka Father God, initially starting his own faction called Joy Reigns. But before long, Amy's teachings had been passed down to another organization. It's called 5D Full Disclosure, which as of right now has an active website that still refers to Amy as Mom and claims that Amy achieved ascension in 2021. On the website, videos feature two women speaking about what they call preparing for the next wave. And who are these hosts, you ask? None other than Aurora and Hope, the same devoted followers who once appeared on my show. I knew they were in deep when I interviewed them. I tried to challenge their beliefs, urging them to question Amy, not just for her sake, but for their own. Take a listen to how reverently they spoke about her, how completely she controlled their thoughts and had taken hold of their way of life.
She is Mother Earth. So if you had to envision Mother Earth in a physical vessel, then you would understand Mom's experience.
Well, do you think it
And that
might
is
be
the only
better?
way.
Do you think you owe it to her to hold her to a higher standard than letting her get to the point that she's that drunk and abusing the followers?
I have been with Mom for 2.5 years, and I will tell you, she is the absolute brilliant, kindest, sweetest being. She has taken me from a highly dysfunctional place and made me highly as brilliant as she is. You are seeing a microscopic piece of Mom. She is absolutely amazing.
I have spent almost 3 years by her side. and she is absolutely amazing. I would not be the person, the feminine that you see on the live stream every day in front of thousands of people if it wasn't for what she has done. She is my best friend. She is a companion. She has shown me so many beautiful aspects of this planet that have been forgotten, and that is love. And why the people you see are going against her is because they can't feel love. It's not in the mind. God's in your heart. And that is where she has always been her entire life. And how you view these things, that is your opinion. That is your belief based on other things. There is so many grander things on the horizon for this planet for everybody to see. And it starts with mom. She is the way. She is the only person that has been in the heart space. We forgot. And we have to learn the right way. And I owe everything to her, no matter what anybody says, no matter what her family believes, what she did to her children. It's all been higher guided. It's love based.
And like I said, to this day, these two women you just heard are committed to Amy's cause. They haven't wavered. It's a testament to the vice grip these groups can have. I am the incurable optimist. I still have hope for these women and their loved ones that they will one day see the light. They will one day find a way to have a productive and rewarding life where they find joy and peace and relationships that are healthy, and they contribute to this world in some way. When it comes to ridding the world of cults, it can feel like Groundhog Day. It can feel like pushing a rock repeatedly up a hill. There will always be groups that profit off of scams, oppression, and fear. Sometimes it's all about the money. Sometimes people really believe what they're spewing out. So what can we learn from this? Why did I spend time talking about this? What struck me most about this case is that Amy was a woman who believed she could play God, that she could bend reality to her will, making up the rules as she saw fit. I think at times she was just laughing. I think at times she thought, man, what a con have I got? I got people waiting on me hand and foot. I got people running around doing things for me. I got the best con in the world. And at times, I think she actually started to believe in her own scam. I think she actually got so delusional, particularly when she started taking these toxic substances and getting so into alcohol toxicity. I think she actually started believing some of what she was saying. So I think it covered the gauntlet. I think at times she was just saying, hey, I got people working, waiting on me for free, people sending in money. Hell, this beats working. And then I think she kind of fell into her own trap. But in the end, her delusions of power really boomeranged on her, because the people that bought into her scam, her story, believed in her so much they wouldn't help her when she needed it. They said, you don't need help, you're a god. And they watched her die. While she couldn't be saved, her story serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of blind devotion. That's why I was so grateful her family chose to share their story with me, because to them, she wasn't just Amy, the alleged cult leader. Before that, she was a mother, a sister, a daughter, and a friend. She was a person with a life ahead of her before these twisted beliefs consumed her. And I felt compassion for her. And for those still trapped in cults, there is and always will be hope. Don't give up. If you've got family members being pulled into or already in and absorbed, keep writing those letters. Keep showing up outside that gate. Keep calling the police. Keep talking to the local news. Because inside those walls, inside those gates, they're telling them nobody out there cares about them. Nobody wants them. There's nowhere to go back to. But when you keep on, some of it's going to leak through. They're going to see a television screen they weren't supposed to see. And maybe you just might be on it. They're going to drive into town to pick up supplies, and they're going to see a poster that you put up on a telephone pole that they weren't supposed to see. And it's going to have that little flicker of hope that, hey, they haven't forgotten me, they haven't given up, I can still go home. Don't ever give up. Don't ever quit. If you've got a family member that you feel have been pulled into a cult or whatever they call it, never quit. Never give up. Stand outside that gate. These things tend to implode. Let them know you will forever be their soft place to fall. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystery and Murder. I'm Dr. Phil.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. My network, Merit TV, has it all.
Now, let me blow your mind.
Merit TV's got the news that matters.
The selection of a new pope.
Entertainment you crave.
Busted.
Everybody in a good mood today?
And live events.
Surprise.
What am I, chopped liver?
With serious punch.
Big shot.
Go to merittv.com and download the Merit TV app today.